If you want to keep up to date with the latest channel activity, Destiny news, and dank memes, follow me on Twitter at Rickakis. What is up, guys? Rickakis here, and it's Saturday, so that means it's time to go over some more amazing fan-made exotics for Destiny. Now, this is the only series that lets you submit your exotic weapon, armor, or heck, even ghost shell idea and have a realistic concept art made for it. Now, that's because I've partnered with the artist Benjamin Radaman, who makes these amazingly realistic exotic concepts. His deviant art will be linked in the description down below. Now, in today's video, we're going to go over 5 featured exotics, all coming from the comment section of last week's video. I'm then going to go over the proper way to submit your idea and some tips for getting selected. And lastly, we're going to go over all of the different creations made since last week. Now, very importantly, for those of you planning to submit an idea, we only take the submissions from the newest video. If there is a newer video than this one, an annotation will appear right now leading you to it. Additionally, if you like this series and want to see more, please remember to support it by simply rating and especially sharing this video. So without further ado, let's get started. The first concept we have here is the Master of Dragon exotic warlock bond concept by Winged Cow. Now, this is kind of an interesting concept, and I'll get into exactly why that is, but let's first go over its perks. The first perk is the exotic perk, the Life Exotic, kind of the same thing as the exotic class items like the Dead Orbit exotic class item that lets you use an extra exotic without taking up an exotic slot. Then we have kind of what you can expect for most class items, you know, Arc Double Down, etc. But then we have the second exotic perk, which is what makes this unique. It is Master of Dragons. Gain a different respawn animation, where 2 flaming, transparent, Chinese-style dragons circle your character before evaporating into flame. And that's it. Now, when I first read this, I was kind of thinking, well, shouldn't this also have some sort of useful ability, like the dragons will do damage to nearby enemies? That'll come up very few times, but sometimes in PvP playlists, it'll come up in PvE, being able to get revived, have the dragons swirl around you, kill nearby thralls around your corpse. Like, that would actually be pretty useful. I don't think that would be overpowered. But then I kind of got thinking, well, you know, that is definitely an option, and some of you may agree that that would be the better route for an exotic like this, and it would be pretty cool. But also, that's not necessary. Like, the more I was thinking about it, the more I was thinking, well, you know what? You could just have, you know, exotic class armor items like this bond that just have super cool shit going on. You know, you have the dragon swirling around you whenever you revive, and they don't do anything. They just look cool. And that's it. Like, is there anything wrong with that? I don't think so. I think that would be a really sweet way to have these exotic bonds. Like, obviously, making them exotic makes them very desirable. People want to go after them. People want to collect them. People are like, wait, oh shit, is that guy wearing the exotic bond? And then having this really cool effect that everyone, you can show off to everyone if they revive you in a strike and you have these dragons and they're like, oh crap, what was that? Like, that would be really sweet. And I don't necessarily think that they need to have a useful effect. Again, they very much could, and it would be pretty awesome as well, but you could just have these really cool, you know, exotic class armors without necessarily a crazy effect to them in terms of altering gameplay, but rather just for the sake of being cool. Now, moving on, we have something pretty darn cool, the Night Cleaver exotic sword concept by Keegan Martinez. Now, this actually has a very, very simplistic perk, but also actually pretty awesome. The perk is called Fury of Blades, and it's pretty much the only thing unique about this weapon. It's going to feature most of the other perks that the other exotic swords feature. But what this perk does is that after every hit with this sword, you swing the sword 5% faster, so your attack speed increases by 5%. This stacks up to 35 hits. That's what it says. Of course, this number can be changed depending on balance issues, but that's pretty much it. Now, if you don't do that within 5 seconds, if you don't get any hits within 5 seconds, it will reset back to 0. Now, I kind of thought about this, and that would actually be really, really cool. If there's a lot of enemies around or you're fighting a big enemy, you swing the sword 5% faster, then 10, then 15, 20, and then, you know, after 5 hits, you're swinging 25% faster. After 10 hits, you're swinging this sword, you know, 50% faster. You can go all the way up to doubling the speed. You're going to be swinging this sword like super fast, and as long as you can keep getting hits within that 5 seconds, you're going to be increasing your damage output massively. Like, that would actually be a really cool and fun exotic sword to use. And I can just even right now imagine some of the strategies to using this weapon, taking care of all the ads first, and then dealing with the boss and having that massive attack speed increase by that point to start swinging super fast at the boss and just destroy him super quickly. Like, that would be a blast to use. Very, like, balanced perk, wouldn't be overpowered at all. In fact, you may even need to increase it to like 7% faster, I think. Like, it would just be a very simplistic to understand, but very fun and effective sword to use. And again, really would love to see more exotic swords introduced into Destiny. Right now we have totally functioning exotic swords. They're useful but not overpowered in anything, and again, would love to see more. We have in place what you need to introduce exotic swords. They're already in the game. Time to have more variety in that category. Moving on, we have Lungs of the Wise Ahamkara, exotic shotgun concept by Harambe shot first. Now, this weapon has a lot of interesting abilities. Firstly, this shotgun loads only 2 shells, so it's kind of like a double barrel shotgun, both of which are fired at the same time initially. Now, it does have a passive perk called Lungs of the Wise Ahamkara. This weapon fires a quick burst of flame rather than bullets with pellets in a straight, short pillar. The fire deals damage over time. So again, you're replacing the traditional pellets that you find in most shotguns and instead using kind of a burst of flame, like the breathing fire of the dragon, you know? And, you know, if this does reasonable damage, it could be completely balanced. I have no reason to think that replacing pellets with, you know, kind of flame rounds would be ridiculous in any way. In fact, because of the damage over time, it might do initially less damage than a normal shotgun. So that is something to keep in mind. The exotic perk is the Elder Knowledge. Now what this does is it makes you able to fire each barrel separately, which halves the initial damage dealt. If you aim down sights, it will still fire both rounds with a single trigger pull. So essentially this gun is a crazy, super powerful double barrel fire breathing shotgun. I mean, that is pretty much what it is in a nutshell. And the idea is pretty damn cool, being able to have this double barrel shotgun that if you aim down sights, it shoots both bullets at the same time. Obviously going to be a very powerful initial shot, going to be good at taking down enemies in one shot at close ranges, but obviously the downside, unlike pretty much every other shotgun, which has like 6 rounds in backup, is that you're going to have to instantly be reloading this gun after a single shot. So yes, the killing potential is very high, but if you fuck up, if you miss that shot, there is no backup shot because you are reloading at that point. So very interesting, like, give and take with this weapon. It isn't just outrageously powerful, going to be one-shotting everyone from across the Crucible with no drawback. There is a very clear drawback in the sense that you're going to have to reloading after a successful kill. But of course, you do have the opportunity to not aim down sights and fire each barrel at a time. Potentially good if you've snuck around your opponents and they're just not looking at you. You can go right, you know, behind them, plug around into their back and instantly kill them that way at point blank range. And then, you know, kill 2 enemies instead of just being able to kill 1 before reloading. Very cool idea. Would love to see more unique shotguns like this one in Destiny. Moving on, we have another sword, the Saint 14's Courage exotic sword concept by Ben Udolf. Firstly, love the look of this sword, you know, keeps up the Saint 14 theme of the purple glowing light going through the middle just like the helm of Saint 14. Now, this weapon has a few unique abilities. The first is a main perk called My Life Before Yours. while equipped, you move much faster and revive teammates faster, but you take more damage. So you're giving yourself for your team. You're being a more useful asset for your team, but you are going to be able to take more damage from incoming sources. Moving on, we have the exotic perk Shield of Dawn. Blocking is resistant to all burns, so solar, void, and arc. And blocking with allies near you will grant them bonus armor. So this ability, the Shield of Dawn exotic perk, should kind of counteract a little bit the taking more damage clause, and that huge downside is kind of what makes this sword, you know, a little bit balanced. It won't be completely ridiculous, because when you're not blocking, you know, when you're actually trying to attack an enemy, you, just by using this sword, just by having it equipped, will take more damage. So that's definitely the balancing factor to make this thing not ridiculous, because the abilities are really cool, and I love the team focus for these ideas. You revive teammates faster, you move faster so you can kind of get to those teammates faster, and you can, you know, block the incoming damage around them, potentially, you know, protect them as they shoot from behind you. And while you're doing that, you know, and you're encouraged to do that because they get more armor while you're in that position. So again, huge team focus for this weapon. Not really an offensive weapon at all, but rather just a purely backup support weapon. And the last concept we're going over today is the Immortal Vi, exotic ghost shell concept by Conboy. Now, the main perk of this weapon is the Immortal Vi. Upon death, an explosion of light will occur, damaging and blinding all enemies in a nearby radius. Next, it has the exotic perk Light Detector, marks all nearby material formations regardless of type. And then it has the exotic perk Light Extractor, chance to obtain planetary materials while looting engrams on the corresponding planet. Now, all of these things, I think one of these perks would have to go. Maybe the Light Detector perk would have to go, otherwise it's just too damn useful. I like the Light Extractor perk, where if you open blue engrams you looted on Venus, it has a chance to give you, like, you know, 5 spirit blooms. Like, that seems pretty damn useful. The main perk is going to be the most interesting perk on this exotic ghost shell idea. The upon death, you cause a small explosion, it damages and blinds enemies nearby. Now, of course, the damage and the blinding effect can be dialed back or pushed forward however much to make this useful but not overpowered. And I really do like the idea of a very small explosion doing a little bit of damage, you know, like 20 damage to nearby enemies, and giving them a little bit of a blinding effect. Again, that's going to be useful. You may even get a couple of kills from that ability, but it is in no way going to be overpowered, and it's in no way going to make ghost shells, like exotic ghost shells, you know, a must use, but rather just something you want to use. I've always been in favor of the idea of adding exotic ghost shells into Destiny and giving them, you know, little slightly useful effects that make them worthwhile. And the Immortal Vi effect, if dialed back, could definitely fit that category. Again, I also really like that Light Extractor perk with the engrams giving you planetary materials. That's kind of a different take on how to acquire planetary materials, how ghosts can help you acquire planetary materials that Bungie hasn't done yet. So hopefully even that idea can make it into the game, perhaps even as something that shows up on legendaries from time to time. So that's going to be it for today's exotic concepts. If you want to submit your exotic idea, what you need to do is simply reply to the comment I'm going to leave in the comment section down below. So I'm going to make a comment saying reply with your exotic idea here. Simply reply to that comment, and that is the only place we're going to look for exotic submissions. Now, that comment will fill up with the 500 reply limit pretty fast, and I'll be there to put thread number 2 down as well. Don't worry, Benjamin looks in both thread number 1 and thread number 2 for ideas. Now, as for some tips for getting selected, firstly, try to self-regulate your idea, make sure it's not overpowered. Getting a kill and giving yourself an overshield automatically is a little bit much, especially for PvP. Secondly, try to be realistic for Destiny. Getting a kill and turning into a dragon sounds cool, but that's never actually going to happen in the game. Thirdly, try to be, not too complicated. If you're writing paragraphs and paragraphs and like essays explaining exactly what your perks do, that's just a little bit much. Remember, this idea is going to have to fit into the game, and you're going to have to explain it all in a little box when your cruiser goes over that perk. But lastly, don't be afraid to get creative in the gun types category. Don't think that you have to make, scout rifles, auto rifles, all the pre-existing categories. Feel free to make, exotic concepts that we've never seen the gun category for. Laser rifles, SMGs, all of that stuff is totally acceptable. And now, to wrap things up, let's go over all of the different concepts that were created from last week's ideas. Firstly, we have the Curse of the Hallowed exotic sidearm concept by Dylan Brown. Next, we have the Temporal exotic auto rifle concept by Spectre 2000. Moving on, we have the Amkara's Teeth exotic dagger concept by Christian Owens. Moving on, we have the Stargazer exotic sniper concept by Peyton Barrett. After that, we have the Don't Hold Back exotic auto rifle concept by Carlos Rubio. And lastly, we have the ZZ-23 Definite Strike exotic machine gun concept by the XDFun, or the Smiley Face Fun, whatever you like. Guys, that's it for this week's video. Again, if you like this series, please remember to support it by rating and sharing. Now, if you want to see more videos from me and don't want to miss out on next week's fan-made exotics video, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickHackis. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.